better than ever. And I know right now that I'm going somewhere and I need some cheddar. Oh, baby, better.
Hey, what's up,
Better
everyone? It's
not
Andre
to.
Luck here with my next episode of the Sports Sales Show, where I'm going to talk about the alignment between sales and marketing, or the lack thereof, and how AI could maybe not completely solve it, but be the connector to bring those units closer together. So, this is something that I don't have fully figured out, but I get to see it a lot of different places. Sales is doing one thing, marketing is doing the other. And I get to see some of the commonalities and similarities across some of those different organizations and sales and marketing teams. So, what I'll talk about is kind of kick off a series I'll touch on as relates to sales and marketing alignment and how AI could play a big piece into that and like different use cases. So today I'll kind of set the stage. And then in future episodes coming up over the next month or so, I'll dive deeper into specific use cases for AI to help with sales and marketing alignment for the CROs, the CMOs, those executives who are looking from a high level perspective and more from an analytical perspective on how they could use these tools to help them. So, as always, I'll kind of start at current state. So, where we sit today, and this is more specific towards sports and B2B sports sales and marketing in particular. So, a lot of sports teams, this is actually where, the concept for me to get into consulting started less on like sales training and sales development for reps. That's obviously been a big part of the business, but that gap between sales and marketing and what the best organizations do outside of sports and bring in some of those best practices to sports. And so some organizations have got the opportunity to work with and, play different roles in that, but there's still a divide. Marketing is talking about the team, the players, impressions, engagement, all good stuff, but it's not tying back to revenue. So how did those posts, how did talking about the players or, this promotion on tickets, what was the actual attributable metrics and how did that drive pipeline for the sales team? How did that increase revenue and sales? So there's still an opportunity, not just in sports, but specifically in sports to kind of bring those two closer together. Because the sales team, as great as that stuff is and lays the stage and gives them the platform to go out there and sell their product and create more awareness, they're accountable to a number, a pipeline that they need to have, a certain amount of revenue they have in the pipeline, meetings they need to book, deals they need to close. And so when those aren't evaluated and measured on the same metric, then that leads to friction and misalignment and something like, but even before I started doing this actual show, a lot of my videos I talked about when I first got started a couple of years ago. So still a divide there. Marketing teams like the sales team never close our leads. The leads teams like these, the sales teams like these leads stink. And so there's just that friction. And as I've always said, with any initiative to align people or change behavior within an organization, that starts at the executive level. So you need sponsorship from the top. And then now where we're at with AI, you could take data and insights if you have good data and use AI to kind of help bridge those two and run actual plays and use cases and different things that could help provide better insights and just more thorough sales and marketing plans that have this objective view and audit that they're on the same page and aligned around the same goal. So that's the current state. And like I said, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with departments, you're dealing with motivations, different emotions that people have or motives that they have. So as great as AI is, it's not going to fix that. It could probably give insights on like, hey, here's how you can handle a difficult conversation, or here's how you could start to set up a plan on how you can come closer together. But I don't see this solving the problem. I think there's a lot that goes into that. And again, like aligning towards business level objectives is what's most important because that's what's going to unlock the budget and get people, aligned around one common goal. But it can be a connector. It can take and call out different insights or strategies it could build out, or just what it notices that, a lot of times we're just kind of reacting and, we're just thinking in the moment or we get data and then we have to figure out how to interpret it. Like AI can help with that and we'll talk through that. So it could take data, it could take case studies, testimonials, turn those into insights, turn those into campaigns, turn those into strategies. And I think the biggest thing there is like it takes the emotion out of it. So it eliminates just different opinions or trying to be right, but it's backed by data. It's consistent and like the outputs that you get. So when you build a campaign, you upload it with whatever instructions that you need to have. Like, here's how we run our plays, or, 2 weeks out from a game, here's what we want to look at. Or in our B2B process, like, here's what good looks like. So same as I've talked about on the sales side from a leader perspective, like, hey, here's what, good sales practices look like. If you have that same thing documented and like really like pressure tested from a marketing perspective, AI could take that and make sure we're running consistent plays over and over through that. So what I'll talk about in the upcoming episodes, and I'll kind of set the stage here right now, is 5 or 6 different ways and different plays you could do, use cases with AI to bring those sales and marketing teams together that the leaders can run and make sure they execute. It's great if someone owns both sales and marketing, but those are can be very different go-to-market strategies. So depending on the resources, you probably have different people, but they need to come together. So the first one is just thinking about who it is that you're going after. So starting with who, not, a lot of teams have personas. Like I remember one team, it was like Family Frank, Stay at Home Sam, Affluent Alan. And I had a guy named Alan in our team who's like who took on that persona. Um, but yeah, there's definitely personas of like family buyers, super fans, affluent, empty nesters. But from a B2B perspective, like, what's that ideal customer profile? So not just construction companies, but do they have a local presence? Do they have a certain number of employees? Um, is there a certain type of customer that they serve that, we can see, like, here's who we sell best and here's who spends the most, renews the best, and everything like that. So taking your data from your ticketing system, your CRM, wherever that's kind of housed, and letting AI kind of build out the persona. And so in a future episode, I'll actually go through that use case and share my screen and everything like that to show what that looks like. So that shared ideal customer profile, that's one use case. Another one, which I've been real big on, is the type of messaging that you're putting out there. And not, sorry, definitely not just AI messaging, because there's so many people who use AI now and ChatGPT, like they could read it. 2 years ago, you could probably ship something out that was fully AI and like, wow, this looks really great and thoughtful. But like now you can just read it, just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel human. So what you can do is take messaging from real conversations, so call transcripts, testimonials, customer interviews. You could interview your customers and like take that, dump that all into AI, and like, here's messaging that we can go out to the market with on LinkedIn, with our paid ads, with assets that the sales team is going and using in their sales presentations. And it's like real language from the customer, not a group of people who kind of sat in a boardroom or sat in a meeting room, like, oh, this would be good, or just AI wrote it. It's actually from real conversations. So that's a different use case we'll go into. Campaigns that actually drive pipeline and revenue. So kind of doing that audit, like, is this actually tying to a revenue outcome? And what do those campaigns look like? So based on current buyers and reasons people are losing and your ideal customer profile. So really those first two that we talked about, what's a campaign that we can execute that drives to revenue and has success metrics? We'll do another one that's more focused around the content that you create. So those kind of go hand in hand. Probably should do those back to back or maybe even just join it. But one around the content that you create and making sure that's driving revenue, not just, again, likes and impressions, but how is that content, testimonials, case studies, infographics, whatever it may be, that help support your sales team that they could share and post on LinkedIn, that keep people engaged, that get people excited, that creates that momentum in the sales process. We talked a lot the past couple of months about when deals stall and what are things you could do to kind of keep things moving. That's where marketing can come in and assist and help out as well, and have some content that keeps people warm, whether it's like an upfront and discovery process after that discovery meeting to an initial or final evaluation. Like, what's some content that we could put out there that's not taxing on the marketing team, but also can be something that we can kind of replicate based on, hey, here's a couple key factors from this deal, help us produce content that could help the sales team close that. So that's one thing we'll look at. And the last thing is just account-based marketing. And this is what really triggered me a couple years ago to really dive into like the marketing side and just the concept of it. And at the end of the day, it's just really good marketing, but it's aligning sales, marketing, customer success around a shared group of accounts. So like, here's how we're going to attack these accounts and move forward versus just random actions like marketing's doing this post here, sales is calling some leads there. The success teams, the service team, once they come on board, is doing different actions. But like, how do you take those different units across your go-to-market team, and if the deal size is worth this investment, how do we have a unified, aligned effort? So AI could help build out what that campaign looks like, identify what the accounts are, who are the stakeholders within the account that we could target. So taking a lot of the sales strategies and applying that from a marketing perspective and aligning those different fronts and those different units to do that. So those are things that we'll talk about, and how you could create different agents or different prompts, or just start kind of like a V1 brainstorming on, all right, we have this goal we need to focus on from a sales perspective. The sales team can't be out there just doing it all themselves. Like, they need to be meeting with people. They need to be having conversation, moving deals forward. Always talked about how AI can help support that, from generating leads to warming people up and nurturing people and creating different content and campaigns. So we'll take outside of just like the sales perspective, but more a holistic revenue strategy across those different units and what that looks like and where AI can fit in to expedite that and increase revenue opportunities for a team. So excited to dive into it. Like I said, this is what really, you know, catapulted me into like diving down this path and eventually led to me into getting into consulting. So don't have it fully figured out myself, like I said before, but excited to kind of dive through this and share. Here's some specific examples I've seen, and each of these different episodes I do and series I do, I take something away that then I can go apply. So these are always great conversations for me and help me just kind of think outside the box of what, I'm looking to talk about and how I could better serve and help clients. And what's interesting is, like, even for this episode, I had an idea of what I wanted to cover from a high level, but went back and forth with AI. I'm like, hey, help me build out the talking points here and what this all looks like. And so after about 20, 30 minutes of back and forth, AI helped kind of shape this concept of not just one episode about, hey, here's how sales and marketing work together, but here's like a content series you could build around it. So from a marketing perspective, like, there's a ton of use cases, and that's one right there. So every episode I talk about things that stood out. So I was doing a post on LinkedIn. I was doing some research around how a partnership with a sports team could help a brand really get out there and build a deeper connection with their fans or with their potential customers. So I see team or organizations every day that they're doing Google ads, they're doing meta ads, they're doing billboards and print ads, and they can't measure if this is actually working or not. And I came across a stat that said 66% of consumers are more likely to purchase from companies that sponsor sports that they like or teams that they like. So if you have an affinity with a certain team or a certain sport, those potential customers that you're looking to target, they can associate you with that brand, they're more likely to purchase from you versus a competitor. So, that's a stat that stood out that further supports like that deeper connection and community you can build if done right. And it's not just, hey, here's, 6 figures to put up a sign in your stadium or on your arena, whatever it may be, but like, what's a true integration between a brand and then a sports team or entertainment property, and how do you tie that together to help drive wins on both sides? Obviously, the team wants revenue. They want more people in the stands, in the seats, buying merchandise, concessions, all that stuff, buying tickets. And then the partner and the brand, they want more people buying their stuff. And how do we better measure that so it's not just a wall sign or not just a social post, but like truly an integration? So that's something that stood out. I also like to do shout outs every episode. And one thing I was thinking through as I was kind of watching NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, like, I started to see teams that I've worked with over, the past 6, 7 months here. And like, that was really cool to see, like the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Atlanta Hawks, the Portland Trail Blazers, and others that were either having conversation with or work with that or even like the Braves got to work with a couple months ago, and they're off to a hot start. So I'm not going to take credit for that, but I want to shout out some of those teams we got to work with, and pretty cool to see. Because in our sessions we talk a lot about whether the team wins or not. Here are the best practices to help you capitalize, and when they win, this is really going to help expedite and like really 2x, 3x, like you'll see multiples on top of the work you do because now you have that momentum going for you. So as long as you're not being an order taker, you're really going to capitalize on that. So a lot of these teams we met with was either in early in the season or in the off season leading up to a season. So they've been able to implement that and hopefully now get to capitalize on what that looks like. Um, Last thing I'll talk through here in closing as we wrap up. Hopefully that wasn't too staticky. It looked like it froze here on my screen, but in closing. So again, excited for this series. Something that I've talked a lot about, and Brittany and I talk a lot about too, and how this can work B2C and B2B within sports, as her background and strength and expertise is in marketing, and I bring that sales perspective. And so a lot of times we'll just kind of throw ideas out on how we could help certain clients or just like concepts that we think. So I think this will take a lot of those conversations and I'll bring those here. Like I said, don't have it fully figured out, but excited to learn through that. But that's kind of like where we're at today. Very near future. Now it's not reactively, all right, here are some prompts I could do. But if you have good data, AI will be able to run automations kind of in the background and say, hey, based on your data, here isn't just like what the data says, but here are insights you can take. And the agents have already acted and built out what that looks like for you. So now you're kind of operating out of this like cockpit type setting where you're looking and seeing from a marketing perspective. It's like, oh, we have this campaign coming up, and it's already told me that we're ahead of pace where we need to be, or we're a little behind on where we need to be on tickets sold for this game. Here are some actions you could take, and I already queued up a campaign that you can run on Meta like that. Like that's not far away from already being something that teams can use and execute. So that's kind of like the evolution of like from what we'll talk about to where the future is going. But like I say in every episode, so if this was something that you thought was impactful, like it, share with someone in your network you think they can get some takeaways from this. Subscribe so you get updates on future episodes and as I go through this series and other topics that I cover on a weekly basis. But like I tell my daughters every morning when I drop them off for school, go be awesome today, and I'll be back next week with another video.
That's nothing. I'ma be doing this and I'm gonna be head hunting. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go. Oh baby, don't know. Oh baby, don't go.